I think this is a lovely pen. It's very pretty. It feels really nice in the hand. It's got a beautiful nib. So gold and sleek and chic.
What do you think about the fact that they call it the Lady Pen?
I think that's very strange. I think anyone could use this pen.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. Today, I'm going to talk about the pen that you just saw that Tyler Fallis was talking about, my good friend. This is a grail pen for me. This is the Lamy Lady Pen. This is a pen that I saw a few years ago. I was waiting online to speak to Josh Lax, and there was a young woman who had one of these, and she was saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just got one of these. I got it really cheaply, and it's so fantastic." And I looked over her shoulder, and I thought, boy, that is the strangest but most beautiful looking pen. And I was later surprised to find that a pen from the 1990s would be so gendered, because by the 90s you sort of got a feminist world, and it seems strange to me that a pen company would focus on a pen and call it the lady pen. That seems more like something that happened in the 1950s or 60s. In fact, Schaefer, of course, had pens that were marketed directly to ladies, and they also had the special and famous pen that was marketed just for men. And then in the earlier part of the 20th century, that was very typical. Sign that this is a so-called ladies' pen is that it doesn't have a clip. The idea being that a lady would not clip a pen to their pocket. And also, it's gold, and it is made of porcelain. Lamy claimed when it came out in the early 90s that in fact it was the first porcelain pen. I think that claim, it turns out not to be entirely true, but it is a collaboration with the famous Rosenthal China. Now, Rosenthal China goes all the way back to the 19th century. It was a firm that was created by Philip Rosenthal and a Jewish family. And I say that because in the 1930s, this very successful porcelain company was forced to essentially send its owner, at that point now the son of the original founder, was sent into exile, and the Jews that worked there were removed. When the war ended, Philip Rosenthal came back to Germany, and it wasn't until 1950 that he was able to essentially reclaim his heritage and take over the company. In the early 60s, he steered the company into doing collaborations with artists like Walter Gropius, who ended up designing their factory. Gropius is the founder, one of the founders of the Bauhaus, and a key modernist architect. I've talked about Gropius before in this on this channel. And so the idea of collaboration and working with designers, Rosenthal worked with Roy Lichtenstein, for example, the famous painter, and they also work with Bayer, who is a famous designer. So they, like Lamy, have a history of doing that kind of thing. Now, the question is, who designed this pen? According to a website that's now defunct, Pen Spotter, it is Wolfgang Fabian, who, of course, is a legendary designer for Lamy. He's responsible for the Safari pen. And supposedly a designer who is known as Yang, is responsible at Rosenthal for the design that's on the outside of the pen. I have not been able to really verify that in any other place that Fabian is the designer. I say that worries me about a little bit, because the pen, if we're going to look at a pen that this looks similar to, it would be the Lamy Persona pen, which was sort of the high-end pen in the Lamy line. And I think you can immediately see that in shape, in terms of the cap, there is a strong relationship here, and that was designed by Mario Bellini. So I wonder if he was responsible for actually designing this, or perhaps Wolfgang Fabian was working under the influence of the Persona pen. In any case, I think this is typical and frustrating aspect of the pen collecting world, in that so often the people who actually are responsible for how the pen looks, they get forgotten. And this is true in terms of the history of industrial design. The pen has a really beautiful nib, I think, and also which relates a lot to the nib that's on the Persona. That is this conical nib, and it is 14K. And then the porcelain part and the rest of the pen has this lovely gold. I think embedded into the porcelain is real gold, which is really pretty. There were 3 versions of the pen, 2 of the 2 pens which are gold, one that has a much more geometric design, and then there is a silver design with the more abstract design, but blue and white and silver. And so there are 3, as far as I know, 3 possible pens that you can get. And I right now only have this one. It has these little black ball elements, which are, of course, on the pen to keep it from rolling away. The pen doesn't post, and of course you wouldn't want to post it anyway, because I think then it would scratch. The porcelain sounds very fragile, but one of the things that's really amazing about porcelain, particularly if it's supported in this way with the metal body, is that it's actually quite strong and isn't likely to break, even if you were to, let's say, drop it. I mean, I'm not going to test that out, but it's a very hard material. The pen, as you would imagine, uses a converter or a cartridge. Now, I have to say, now I'm a great believer that if I own a pen, I should use it. But I'm sorry, this pen is too beautiful, too, I feel, rare at this point to use as an everyday writer. I will dip the pen and draw with it, but I just like to look at it. I just really think that this is a thing of beauty. One thing that I forgot to mention is the way the cap, it unscrews, and that it has very few threads. And this is very similar to the Persona, so that when you unscrew it and screw it on, it's only really about a half a turn. And that, of course, requires very great precision on the part of Lamy, and is typical of their pens, which are so beautifully made. So how does this thing write? Now, I have to be honest. It took me quite a lot of time to get this pen to write, because probably it's been sitting around for years, never used, or if it was used, maybe the ink dried out in it. I'm not sure what happened, but you can see that I had one of those horrible fountain pen experiences, and my fingers all covered with ink. But eventually I did get it to write. So I have to say that this is the Lamy Lady pen. The only thing I don't like about this pen is its name. And I would say, it doesn't say it on the nib, I don't think, but it's something like a medium to a fine. And this is Rhodia paper. And this is Waterman. What is this called? Intense blue? Inspired blue, sorry. This is a color that often people who collect pens, vintage pens, feel is very safe. So at pen shows, this is the color they often use for dipping. And I ended up putting ink into the pen, not dipping it, because it wouldn't even write when it would dip. So it has, I guess, it was so clogged. And also, that's not really when you dip a pen, you really can't tell how it writes, I don't think. Anyway, once I got it going, it writes very similar to other Lamy pens. Even though it's a gold nib, it doesn't really have any difference in line variation that I can make out. And I love the way the nib looks, the conical nib. And it writes very smoothly, very similar to Persona pen or other of Lamy's pens with this kind of a nib. Okay. So it writes fine. It's okay. But I'm never going to use this pen to write with because it's too beautiful. And I guess it will be one of those pens that I will gaze at and admire and hold, but not use.